Hello, Internet. This is once again Kopitiam Council, and we are back. And now, as we are recording, this is new month. So, new month, new week, new episode for all of you listeners out there. It's been encouraging for for the last few episodes that we are getting some momentum in YouTube ID. So, before we start, do you have anything to say to our audience?
I think I want to say thank you for those that are actually staying to listen to us. It means a lot, and we definitely like reading a lot of the comments, whether it be positive, whether it be negative. At least that's some kind of engagement that we can try test with, and we can see where do we stand when it comes to delivering content and quality in our podcast. So, be rest assured, me and Hafiz are still trying our best. I think, when it comes to coming back to podcasting, we are doing this for a few months. So you can expect to see hopefully some more improvements along the way.
Yeah, just one little note that I would like to say to the audience there that we are, as much as you guys or other podcasters out there, we are learning as we go. So there may be some mistakes that being made or whatever in along the way, but rest assured that we are here for for your support, and as long as there is any feedback response from all of you in terms of likes or share or comments, we all welcome it to very very deeply. With that out of the way, shall we? Because there's a lot of things happen since we last recording podcast. Where would you like to go next first?
I think we can start with one of the biggest news that has been hitting us across the internet, across the television. I think it's been a very bad past month for executive security agencies because we have, after this report, we just found out that Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader for Hamas, was assassinated in Tehran while he was making his visit to the inauguration of just recently elected President Masoud Pezeshkian, which we covered on a previous episode. So do listen to that if you want to know what our thoughts on the Iranian presidential election. So this was huge because I think this is a very rare occasion where Ismail Haniyeh himself exited from his house, his estates in Dubai, in Qatar, to pay respects to the president of a country that has been very supportive to Hamas, which is Iran and the Islamic Republic. So there's a lot going on here, and I think a lot of people are going to quick, obviously, and I wouldn't blame if you do quickly point to the going to blame Mossad and Israel for what has happened here. But I think that would be a bit too simple, and we can end the episode straight away if we just want to say that. But I think there are a lot of things at play here, and I think there's going to be a lot of things that will lead up to this, a lot of implications. So I think we're going to just look at it from a more granular aspect here. We're going to dive more deep into this. I'm going to entertain the surrounding ideas and the theories that have been swirling about in the aftermath of this assassination. So, Hafiz, you want to go first?
All right. Like Adi, I always maintain the idea that Israel and Iran, these are two isolated powers in the Middle East. So if this is one of the similarities that people often overlook, that Israel have no friends in Middle East and Iran sort of have no friends as well. That's why they are heavily funding all these what they call a exist resistance in respective countries, especially like Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Palestine. So I still maintain, I'm just going to go right into it, that all this is part of how they justify their existence in the Middle East. Iran cannot be very influential in the Middle East without Hamas, without Hezbollah, without the Houthis and others. And it same goes to Israel as well. As long as the genocide in Gaza is ongoing, I think Netanyahu is still there, needed, and still can prolong his long overdue elections or whatever democracy practices that they have to do in Israel. Because otherwise, why you want to stall? Why you want to ruin a deal? A ceasefire deal that was reported very close to an agreement, and you want to ruin it just like that. Yes, on Israel part, people are accusing Israel, even though they don't say yes to this accusation, but we all know who did it and who has the capability to do that. But also at the same time, the Iran also play a part of it, because their lack of ability to control the airspace, it's a bit worrying. It's not even a week, Ismail Haniyeh in Iran, and he already got assassinated. And the amazing thing about this as well, like why I come up with all this, like Iran and Israel need this war to prolong, to keep happening, is that the accuracy of this missile attack, like Israel was complaining to the UN, to the world's media, when they were accused of, like, why there's so many collateral damage when you attack Gaza and whatnot. They say, like, this is part of the bombing strategy and whatnot. There will be collateral damage, but to kill someone that even far away from from Gaza, they can be very accurate to bomb the building where the Iranian God building was. So it's amazing how Israel sometimes can be very accurate and sometimes can be very stupid, and we all know why they do this. So it's make it even more clearer that Israel wants the demolition of Gaza, and they want Gaza for for simple reason that they want to conquer the land of Gaza. And in terms of Ismail Haniyeh, they just, hey, this is the leading negotiator in the peace talk, so yeah, let's kill this leader, just like we did in 2012, killing Jabari, and also in 2020, in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, killing the founder of Hamas, Ahmed Yassin. So it's not new that Israel killed the leader, like you said. Like, it's a bad week for the security officers that involving in this deal. But again, Adi, it's nothing. It's nothing new. It's not surprising that Israel did this. What do you think?
Okay, I think it makes sense to blame Israel, and I think there's a lot of reason to it, because right now we can. I mean, you mentioned about collateral and being so precise in a certain situation. I think when it comes to bombing Gaza, a saturation operation is more of the modus operandi for the IDF. I don't think they care about collateral. Collateral is collateral to them. But I think with Iran, it's less to be more precise, so as not to provoke any more. But however, how far can you prod the sleeping giant, when it comes to attacking on a very important week? This was the inauguration of the new president, the person that is going to be an administrator for the country for the next 45 years, and somewhat a voice for the supreme leader, right? And this is a huge blow to almost like a ill omen, to show that, oh wow, this president, he's not even inaugurated yet, and one of their allies as leader, we hosted them here. Straight away, he was bombed. He was killed in action after how many years of supporting the resistance in Gaza and Palestine. And that is a huge blow to the confidence of the Iranian people as well, because it shows that Israel is able to launch these airstrikes without retaliation, without any countermeasures, without anything to prevent this from happening. So who's to say that they can host any other leader, and that Israel, if they find it disagreeable or someone that they need to eliminate, they can go for it? And this was very alarming. Also, because it kind of sets back the negotiation process. Like you said, Ismail Haniyeh himself was a key figure in the ceasefire agreements and the negotiations and such as that. Especially right when after the People's Republic of China has found a way to come to help Hamas and the PLO and Fatah to come to terms with each other, to actually agree to form a coalition or some kind of alliance to administer the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. So to remove a leader like this sets it back 10 to another 10, probably 10, 20 years to the benefit of Benjamin Netanyahu, because we've already seen that he has been losing a lot of support domestically after his or you could say almost insensitive and tone deaf visit to the United States of America, definitely to do something with his Zionist lobbyists over there to push the potential next candidate, presidential candidate, to support Israel moving forward. But at the same time, not much any effort is being given to secure the hostages that are trapped in Gaza. In fact, a lot of the times we see that if you level, like you said, there's a saturation bombing operation with no regard to collateral damages. Who's to say that a lot of those hostages aren't buried under rubble already? So this has sparked a lot of unrest within just even Israel as well, because there is such a thing as war fatigue, and there's such a thing as when you conduct an operation for too long, when international pressure mounts up, definitely the citizenry would be very fatigued and very wary of continuing this war, this genocide. So, in a way, Netanyahu, even though you can argue that he may be able to secure another presidential election, it's at the same time kind of shows also that Israeli people are going to be more split than before. Of course, some might be radicalized to believe that this is the right way to go, but at the same time, you have other people radicalized into thinking that no, this has to stop. Something has to be done. A ceasefire has to be done, and a peace agreement has to be fulfilled. So this is going to be an even more divisive time for not just the world, but also Israel as well. And I think Netanyahu is going to use this to find a way to leverage on his presidential campaign, his electoral campaigns. So very, very big situation here. But I want to try and entertain this idea here, and if you don't mind, Hafiz, because just 2 months ago, the former Iranian president mysteriously died in a helicopter crash in what was to be a very tumultuous and very critical time in Iran, because the supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei is not in the best of health, as we mentioned. He isn't expected to hold the seat of power for too long, and there's going to be a successor soon. So when it comes to having a dignitary like Ismail Haniyeh, it's very convenient as well. Iran has failed to secure the safety of its president, and has failed to secure the safety of their allies. But at the same time, I cannot help but think that what if Iran is also somehow complicit in this, because they've been able to shrug off what do you call Israeli offenses, air offenses in the region, the airspace, but not for this situation here. And you can say the nature of it is more precise. It's not collateral. So. Because I stand to see that Iran might benefit from this, because as they continue to fund Hamas and help and provide them the directives on what to do. Let's be honest here. When you fund an organization, of course, that they will be a bit more beholden to some of your dispositions and what you might want to seek out as targets. And Iran definitely has. It's not just an altruistic cause that they support Hamas. They do it to counterbalance Israel. Now, a peace deal may be beneficial for the region, but is it beneficial for Iran in containing Israel itself? So this is what I'm thinking here, is that if a peaceful Middle East, it's more difficult for Iran to project itself. It would lose a huge theater in Palestine. It would only have to operate in the south of the Arab Peninsula and in Lebanon. So in a way, this can also, if Iran is trying to pursue the idea of containing or even launching more offenses against Israel, this is a very good time, because they can now find a more different type of leader who would be more amenable and to be more understanding to Iran's interests in the region. So there is a lot more geopolitical considerations here. There's a lot more intrigue that is at play here now that Ismail Haniyeh has been taken out.
I mean, interesting you brought up that point, that is Iran complicit in with Israel here. Okay, for our listeners out there, or those who are first time listening to us, we are not propagating conspiracy theory here. We have no interest in that. So whatever that we are saying here, like a question that Adi posted here, based on history or track record. And talking about track record, like, let's look what's happening in Hezbollah. And Hezbollah was fighting with in the, I think, in the 80s, and then when during the 90s they ended the civil war. And then at that time, it was adopted by the Iranian, and as since then they give funding and everything, empowered by Iran, and they have no secret between this link. The Ayatollah and Hezbollah was very clear about this. Now, the point that I'm trying to make here is, if Iran is really serious in fighting Israel, why they keep arming, funding these what so-called, maybe I'm using a loose term of separatists here, because these Hamas and Hezbollah in their respective country are weakening the government themselves, respectively, in Lebanon, in Palestine. So this country have very much internal struggle to maintain their political stability, to keep Israel at bay. And these two countries are conveniently have a direct border with Israel. That's including Syria, by the way. So if Iran really wants to see a peace down the line, it would be for for them to actually support the actual government, not funding Hamas in Gaza. Actually, just go straight away and fund PLO maybe, or make them agree to one cause, like what happened in Beijing recently. And in Lebanon, Hezbollah reported that have even more military prowess than the actual government. So we can already see that this is a divide. Yes, if you have 100,000 strong army, if your country is divided by two, it's just going to be 50-50, isn't it? Compared to other countries that actually centralize their power. So what Iran is doing here is at the same time, taking credit for directly fighting with Israel. But I think this is just another show to advance their political interests, to actually not just be a small player in this respective country political system, but to actually gain control of the totality of these countries. So this is a long game, I think, by Iran, and can only be done by Israel doing and keep the momentum of poking Lebanon, Palestine, and Syria as well. And Israel as well will benefit from this, like you mentioned. It all, what people always say: follow the money. Follow the money. This is what Israel is doing. They got funded by the United States, and in terms of money and arms as well. And they have no reason to stop this, because Netanyahu directly himself benefit from this, and of course his war cabinet. You know, the audience out there may debate that this is a conspiracy theories or whatnot, but this conflict, it's not happened just this year. Iran already started, like I said, in Hezbollah in 90s, in Hamas also about the same time in the early 90s. So I don't know why are we still seeing this as a conflict between one country to another. In fact, what we know here, this is two isolated powers that wants to stay relevant. What do you think, Andy?
I think, in a way, the leadership that Iran is trying to impose in the region is not only by design, but I feel it's an inevitability, because the Arab countries have shown little ability in actually maintaining leadership in the region. Egypt has always tried to tried to make itself a very important player in trying to negotiate, but it's also shown to be ineffective. Jordan has taken in a lot of refugees, but also has never been able to leverage on its position to actually get the conflict resolved. Saudi Arabia, even more so. It seems to be more focused on what is going on in Yemen rather than Israel and Palestine. And if it's to be true that the Saudis have had a very intimate relationship with Israeli leadership, then of course they're not going to get. So there's definitely a vacuum of leadership that is happening in the Middle East, especially since that Iraq used to be one of the main powers in the region, but now has been completely neutered. So there is a vacuum, and I think Iran is trying to fulfill its role, whether by design or because of someone would definitely fill in that vacuum, whether it be the US, whether it be China, whether it be Russia. And I think Iran, as being close proximity to the area, would have interest there. Turkey also somewhat has a bit of an interest in there as well. So it's just by inevitability that when there's an opportunity to be had, that Iran or other regional powers would jump on it, since they have the capacity to do so, to advance their own interests, to advance their own intrigue in the area. So I think it's by just a natural progress of things when it comes to geopolitical maneuvering. So that, I think, when it comes to geopolitical considerations, I think that should be it. But I think I want to, because we are talking about the assassination of a very important leader here, I think we should explore a bit about who this Ismail Haniyeh is. I think because for a lot of people, this is the first time they've heard of this name. And if you've been following the podcast, I mean, Hafiz have mentioned his name among other Palestinian leaders for Hamas leaders for quite some time. So Ismail Haniyeh, he lost his family. He was in a way affected by the policies made by the genocide that was committed by Israel. So he has a just cause to actually continue this resistance against Israeli genocide and occupation. But I think there is more to be had here, more to look at, because I don't think anybody can be 100% clean or 100% a hero. I think at this point now, people are lionizing the idea. We want to make him better than he was because of what he stood for. But at the same time, he's still a person. He's still a man. He's still a leader. Whether that comes with the caveats of being a leader, whether it be good or bad. We know that leaders are subject to a lot of temptations, and I think Ismail Haniyeh himself wasn't exempted from this rule. So, Hafiz, you want to go first on this?
Well, Ismail Haniyeh is no angel, but whatever that he stand for, he actually, did what he was. I think he was told by Iranian, because that's what Hamas do. They take orders from Iran. How much they actually do have authority is remain to be unknown, because this is the problem of having a political leader that so-called the pseudo government in Gaza, where their last election was in 2008, 2007. So this has been more than almost 20 years. So yes, it's democracy is way overdue in Gaza, but of course it's not priority now. But as soon as we achieve peace in Palestine, I think the first thing of order should be doing a fresh election. So Adi, based on this alone, transparency is not something that is a huge thing for Hamas or Iran. In fact, we never know a lot of things. Even the footage of Ismail Haniyeh was killed is not published to the public. So Ismail Haniyeh, in terms of his person, like he was very close to the founder Hamas, Ahmed Yassin, and it was very, at the time, it was fiery speech. It was just next to Ahmed Yassin. So this is a political leader that was born in the refugee camp, from parents that live and still live there until before he moved to Qatar. So he was, in terms of as a personality, he's a very down to earth, and obviously was liked by the Gazan. That's why I think they elected him as a leader, at least in 2008. And what's more striking also about Ismail Haniyeh here is that he is a consistent man. So whatever that he mentioned 20 years ago, that's what he still keeps saying. But whether the ulterior motive for change, that's remained to be seen. So, Ismail Haniyeh is a leader, a political leader of Hamas, yet, what is known to the public is, I think, kind of selected, so that the people may know all this as a public records. But more than that, I think there's a lot of hidden or secrecy here between especially the link of Hamas and Iran here.
Yeah, I think you have to understand here that looking at Ismail Haniyeh's career, he's not exactly the most, like you say, is consistent to what he says, but I don't think he's ever been consistent to Hamas itself, because he has been characterized as being one of the more moderate elements within Hamas that is not as stringent or very rigid to the Hamas charter, which does call for the from the river to the sea occupation, and then the challenge against Zionism. And he has been very influential in the negotiations for a ceasefire agreement. But he himself, right, has been characterized as such. When Mahmoud Abbas was trying to get him to step down in a position during, he refused, and then there was the ongoing conflict between Fatah and Hamas in the 2000s after the elections. So he was also part of that move to remove Fatah and the PLO out of Gaza and move them to essentially exile them to the West Bank. So there's definitely a power play that was had, and I think they Hamas, when it comes to securing Gaza, he was very instrumental in doing that, given his popularity. Now, I want to touch also, because he has been very strongly consistent in trying to fight for the rights of the Palestinians, even though it may not be agreeable to the Charter. I think he was someone who is willing to look at the middle line, a more pragmatic approach, trying to find a more amenable approach with leaders in Israel, the ones that are actually willing to listen, to find a middle ground. However, I think a middle ground differs on who you ask. Maybe for Haniyeh, he wanted the pre-67 borders to be restored, which Israel would never capitulate on. They would never make concessions and would never restore pre-67 borders between Palestine and Israel. So that is always going to be an ongoing conversation to be had by whatever future negotiators. But at the same time, I want to share this because this is something that has been making the rounds, and I think we have mentioned this, is that we have seen, and we have to at least acknowledge it, because it has happened also in Malaysia, because we have all these organizations asking for to donate for charity, but somehow it's all turned out to be a scam. So if one is a scam, how many of them are scams? And I have to bring this up because there has been rumors that Ismail Haniyeh and a lot of the other Hamas leaders himself has acquired a great amount of wealth during their time in Qatar, due to the 20% tax that they have levied on any goods entering into Palestine, whether it be from Egypt or it be through Rafah. So they have apparently made themselves quite affluent at the expense of the Palestinian people. This is something that's very common. I'm not going to say that anyone is exempt from this. I think we've seen many 90% political leaders are very much will always give in to the temptations of wealth and power. Not to mention that there are other rumors saying that he has bought beachfront properties in Gaza using his son's names, or that his sisters are one of his was killed recently as well. Sisters who are Israeli citizens. And we cannot verify this to be true, but the fact that this does go around, it's something that should be verified, to be looked into, because these are serious things. A Hamas leader whose sisters that live in Israel, Israeli citizens, and having relatives who fight in the IDF, which is something that's never really been addressed. So I'm not entertaining this to be a fact, but I think there's something that needs to be looked into as well, because we are lionizing figures here. And when we lionize figures, we tend to forget who they are. We don't have a granular understanding of who they are. So it's this Ismail Haniyeh, he is one, but there will be many other Ismail Haniyehs to come. How many people in the camps, in the refugee camps right now, or in the camps in Gaza, are currently being shaped by this current tragedy that's happening, that Ismail Haniyeh himself has experienced. No one is perfect. Definitely, he has contributed a lot to the Palestinian resistance, but at the same time, we have to not be falling into this heroic worship that we tend to bring leaders to, because we lose the nuances and what it means to actually be a negotiator or key figure in this ongoing conflict, which is what me and I think we've always mentioned. We always try to straddle the line between supporting Palestine to its right for statehood, but at the same time, there needs to be a way for sustainable peace within the region, that Israel and Palestine could somehow coexist together.
Ismail Haniyeh is the latest Hamas leader that has been assassinated by Israel. And I think this will not be the last. But Hamas will not be in shortage of Hamas leader to go and resist Israel in Gaza. especially the genocide that's now ongoing in Gaza. So I think that's it for this episode, the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. And next up, Adi, where are we going?
I think because everyone is focusing on Palestine, there are a few things that have slipped under the radar, and these are stories that we will be covering on the next episode. So stay tuned for that.
All right, stay tuned and see you on the next episode.